Last night, Donald Trump and Elon Musk sat down for nearly 2 hours in the interview on X. And here to break down the highlights for us is Danielle D'Souza Gill, a member of the advisory board for Women for Trump, and Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee. So Seth, let's start with you. Elon Musk bought Twitter in part to bring back the Babylon Bee. So I want to just start with a 30,000-foot view with you. And what has transpired over the last 2 years in terms of free speech now that we see all of these events going on with Donald Trump and Elon Musk?
Well, it's really interesting. I don't take full credit, by the way, for him buying Twitter. I think the Babylon Bee was just one of several egregious examples of how people weren't allowed to speak freely on that platform. We made a joke that we weren't supposed to make. We joked that Rachel Levine was our pick for Man of the Year, and that was considered hateful conduct. And he just couldn't believe that we got suspended and that you weren't allowed to tell jokes, especially jokes that have the truth, rooted in them. And he saw that as very problematic, and he was absolutely right about that. Something needed to be done about it. You had all of these platforms where basically colluding with each other and with the government to present certain narratives and to suppress information and disfavored viewpoints that they didn't like. And so if we talk about the whole conversation about preserving democracy and keeping democracy safe, well, you have to have free speech. You have to have people willing to have debates, or else you can't even get to the truth about these issues. And so Musk saw the importance of that, was thankfully willing to pay a massive price for Twitter and to restore free speech in the public square. And now we have it. We have a lot more speech. We have viewpoints. The Bee is safe now. We can tell jokes on this platform. We don't have to worry about getting censored and suspended. It's the one place where we don't have to worry about that. And that provides for much more discourse rather than less. And the left hates that. I mean, they wanted to. I actually saw there was a reporter who was suggesting or asking the White House, the administration, what is your position on this? Like, what are you going to do about this misinformation? Is there anything that you can do to intervene to prevent misinformation from being spread in this discussion? It's like, wait a minute, you guys traffic in misinformation all the time, for one thing. But it's remarkable. And I love that Elon's using the platform to have conversations like that. And I'm sure he'd be willing to have conversations with the other side, too.
Yeah, no, it is remarkable, Seth. What do you say to liberals who say, Elon Musk, he's censoring people, he's, kind of joined up with Donald Trump to kind of put out all this misinformation? You mentioned that question that was asked of, White House press secretary. But of course, Elon Musk is using his platform for free speech. He's not censoring people the way the left is, the way Google is, YouTube, and all of this. Liberals are still on Twitter or X, as it's called, saying all of their thoughts. So what's kind of your response to whether or not Elon is using this as like a bully pulpit?
Well, they're mad that he's not censoring. They're mad that he actually gave Trump a platform to talk from. They're mad that he actually expresses his own viewpoints on this platform, and other people that they used to be able to suppress very easily are allowed to express themselves on this platform. So they're not actually mad about him censoring people. They're mad about him allowing free speech and actually exercising his own right to speak freely. But, when it comes to whether he's silencing his critics or whatever, I think most of that is absolute nonsense. He's the most criticized person on his own platform. And most of these people who are complaining about how much he censors are using his platform to complain about it, which I just find, richly ironic.
Seth, let's dive into the interview itself then. What were your biggest takeaways from the big conversation that happened last night?
Yeah, the conversation, more of a conversation than an interview, as Elon was saying himself. He wanted it to just be a presentation of who Trump is. And I think we got that. You just hear him talking and sharing his mind. And it started out with this conversation about the assassination attempt, which I find it fascinating when we actually get to hear from Trump on that himself and how he experienced that moment. I think it was a really interesting and wide-ranging conversation that allowed people to just kind of see who Trump is and what he thinks and why he believes what he believes without all of the gotcha questions, just getting hung up on all of these things where they try to pin him on something that he said, that they try to stuff words in his mouth and misconstrue a certain way to make him sound like a monster. Elon wasn't trying to make him sound like a monster. I also didn't get the impression that Elon was trying to sell Trump to us. He was just trying to have a conversation with him, which I think he's well within his rights to do on his own platform, especially.
Yeah. Seth, do you think that ultimately, Trump doing a lot of podcast interviews, kind of doing cultural things like this, reaching out to a larger base, do you think that's ultimately going to have a pretty big impact on swing voters? How do you think the viewership was taken, and do you think it's going to make a pretty big difference?
I don't know. I don't know what the audience was made up of. I know that it got a lot more attention than the media wants us to think that it did. They try to act like it was just this nothing thing that had technical difficulties and no one was really tuning in or listening to it. And I love how they do that. Every time they try to suppress something and talk like it's no big deal or that it's dangerous and harmful, they just draw more attention to it and get more views. They've done that with us over the years. As for whether it's helpful, I mean, I think it can only be helpful when he engages and he's himself and he addresses the issues that matter to the American people. I think that's really helpful, especially at a time when you have, where's Kamala Harris? Where's President Biden? Where are they? You can't find them. They're not answering any questions. And so I think any voters who are sitting there thinking, who's actually speaking to the people and communicating what they want to do for this country and how they want to move us forward, you really only have one choice at this point. If you're actually trying to listen and hear what they have to say, there's only one person speaking.
When we look at what the American people are looking for, they want to have a future that they can believe in. Let's go ahead and take a listen to Donald Trump talking about how he wants to bring the American dream back.
They want the American dream back, more important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people, they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our, the Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent. And when I debated him, I was like, is this for real?
Seth, what's your takeaway from that?
It's funny when he could have gone harder in that debate, like mocking Biden's inability to communicate. He was actually pretty gentle, I think, with Biden, because Biden was just struggling to get a sentence out. And there was at one point where he said, I didn't understand what he just said, and I don't think he understood what he just said. I don't think he even knows what he's talking about. I would have loved to have seen more than that because that was actually really entertaining. But I think he's right. The American people are struggling right now, and they want to hear about a path to a brighter future. They want to see the restoration of the American dream. I think that's absolutely true. A lot of them do anyway. A lot of them are perfectly happy to go down this downward spiral of woke madness and reality denial and all of that. But not speaking to those people, speaking to the broader public who may be on the fence about who they want to vote for in this election. I think that's a message that resonates.
Yeah, Seth, this interview was pretty lengthy. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, they had a long conversation. I don't think Kamala Harris could hold her own for so long. She rarely does any interviews, let alone something that is at that length. Do you think that
she can fill a word count, though?
She can do a word salad.
Saying things.
Yeah, I think they're trying to prevent a word salad from coming out from her, honestly. She could have said the same line that you said, or Trump could have said the same line where he says, do you even know what you're saying yourself? But right. Do you think Kamala Harris's strategy of doing a little bit of the Biden strategy, hiding in her basement, not doing these kinds of, lengthy interviews, what do you think about that strategy?
Well, it would ordinarily, I think, be extremely detrimental. But it's a couple of commentators have said, I think Vivek has said this and others, it's not a matter of running against an individual, you're running against the machine. And the leftist Democrat-run media machine is working extremely hard to generate enthusiasm for her, as if she's great, as if she doesn't just spew word salads, as if she actually has a platform and policies that she's promoting that make sense, that don't contradict something she just said 10 minutes ago or 10 years ago to a different audience. So I don't know. I mean, it's probably better the more she keeps her mouth shut, honestly, and lets the media just do the work for her. I think that does benefit her. It's probably a smart strategy, but I mean, I see right through it.